Welcome back, Lincoln currency. Imagine holding in your hand a small, simple, copper-colored coin. It looks ordinary, a 1-cent piece, minted in the year 1981, bearing that familiar D mint mark beneath the date, silently telling you it was born in Denver. To most eyes, it's just a penny. A piece of everyday change that rattles in pockets, disappears under car seats, and sometimes gets ignored on sidewalks. But what if I told you that this little coin, this humble piece of American metal, might be hiding a story worth $98 million? Sounds impossible, right? Yet, behind the copper sheen of the 1981 D Lincoln penny lies a world of hidden value, secret variations, minting mysteries, and collector madness that has turned a single cent into a fortune beyond imagination. Let's peel back the decades, layer by layer, and dive into a journey that begins with the heart of America's coinage system and leads to a treasure most people overlook every single day. The 1981 D penny is not just a coin, it's a bridge between two eras in American minting history. The early 1980s were a time of change, tension, and transition for the United States Mint. Inflation had been eroding the buying power of the dollar throughout the 1970s, and even the cost of copper had begun to threaten the stability of the cent's production. By the late 1970s, in the vast realm of numismatics, where every coin tells its own story of craftsmanship, history, and hidden fortune, the 1981 D 1-cent coin from the United States of America stands as a fascinating masterpiece of copper, art, and legacy. Minted in the bustling city of Denver, Colorado, this coin represents more than just a small piece of change. It's a relic of transition, the final breath of an era before the U.S. Mint changed the very soul of its pennies forever. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that feels almost ordinary, its reddish-brown glow fading with time, its edges slightly softened by decades of circulation. Yet behind that modest surface lies a story of transformation, scarcity, and astonishing worth. The 1981 D penny carries a whisper from the past, a secret that collectors have spent years decoding, and for those who truly understand its significance, its value is far beyond 1 cent. It can stretch into millions under the right circumstances. Let's step back into the early 1980s, a time when America was evolving rapidly. Technology was emerging, industries were expanding, and even the smallest details of everyday life were shifting, including the coins in people's pockets. Until 1982, U.S. pennies were struck primarily from 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them a distinct weight and sound that modern zinc pennies lack. The 1981 D penny, therefore, represents the last full generation of copper cents, a tangible memory of when metal still mattered, when every coin carried not only monetary value but intrinsic worth. The D mint mark just below the date signifies its origin from the Denver Mint, one of the most productive mints in the nation's history. Millions were struck, yet only a handful emerged as pristine survivors, untouched by circulation, sealed away in mint sets or accidentally preserved by curious hands. Among those, certain flawless specimens, bearing sharp strikes, perfect luster, and rare die varieties, have become numismatic treasures capable of commanding extraordinary prices, some even rumored to reach astonishing figures in private sales, soaring as high as $98 million when linked to extreme rarity and collector frenzy. But why is this humble 1-cent coin surrounded by such allure? It's not merely because of its age, it's the blend of its composition, transition period, condition, and minting peculiarities that elevate its status. The 1981 D penny sits at the crossroads of American coinage, the final chapter of solid copper, before the era of lighter zinc cents that began in mid-1982. Collectors recognize it as a symbol of quality and authenticity, a farewell to tradition before change swept through the minting presses. To understand the magnitude of its value, one must delve into the details, the subtle differences between copper and zinc, the historical reasoning behind the shift, and the microscopic variations that distinguish a common coin from a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. Even the faintest doubling on its date, the tiniest die crack near the Lincoln Memorial, or the shimmer of untouched mint brilliance can separate an everyday penny from one that could rewrite a collector's destiny. The coin's obverse, its front side, features the timeless profile of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted with reverence by Victor David Brenner. This design first appeared in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth and has since become one of the most enduring icons in American currency. Every contour of Lincoln's face tells a story of integrity and resilience, capturing the essence of the man who preserved the Union. On the 1981 D penny, those details remain crisp and sharp in high-grade examples, especially on coins that never saw circulation, their surfaces glimmering under magnification like frozen moments of American pride. Turn the coin over, and you're greeted by the elegant architecture of the Lincoln Memorial, a tribute to unity and strength. The reverse design, created by Frank Gasparo, mirrors the real monument's grandeur in miniature form, with even the faint figure of the seated Lincoln visible within its columns, a detail that many never notice until they view the coin through a magnifying lens. That subtle artistry transforms the coin from a mere object into a testament of American craftsmanship. Collectors often describe the sound of a copper penny differently, the way it rings when dropped, heavier and more resonant than its zinc descendants. This acoustic fingerprint alone is enough for seasoned numismatists to distinguish genuine pre-1982 copper coins. And the 1981 D penny, weighing approximately 3.11 grams, embodies that very character, its mass, texture, and tone reminding us that even the smallest relics of the past carry the weight of history. But perhaps what makes the 1981 D so mysterious is not just its material, but the myths and legends that have formed around it. Stories circulate among collectors of ultra-rare varieties, coins with off-center strikes, double dies, or even minting errors so bizarre that they transcend normal valuation. Some tales speak of specimens struck on experimental planchets, others of unique proof-like surfaces that emerged accidentally from polished dies. Each of these anomalies adds a layer of intrigue, transforming what was once a common coin into a potential treasure worth millions. As we journey deeper into its story, we uncover the chain of events that led to this coin's creation, the people who designed and minted it, the collectors who discovered its secrets, and the market forces that propelled its worth to unimaginable heights. The 1981 D penny is not just metal, it's a fragment of time, a relic of America's economic evolution, and a reminder that even the smallest denominations can hold the greatest mysteries. As we move forward, prepare to uncover the secrets behind its minting, the nuances that define its true value, and the thrilling chase for those elusive specimens that have made headlines around the world. Because in the world of rare coins, it's never just about what you can see, it's about what you can discover. The story of the 1981 D penny truly begins long before the presses roared inside the Denver Mint. To understand its hidden value, you must step back into the heartbeat of an American economy that was changing faster than anyone could have predicted. In the early 80s, inflation had begun to reshape daily life. The cost of copper, the very metal that defined the penny for generations, was climbing higher every year. The U.S. Mint found itself facing an uncomfortable truth. It was costing more to make a 1-cent coin than the coin was worth. Yet in 1981, the government hadn't yet found the courage to abandon copper. The presses kept spinning, feeding strips of pure copper alloy into the coining chambers, each blank transforming into a shining new cent that carried Lincoln's proud profile and the emblematic D beneath the date. Inside those minting halls, the process was both mechanical and artistic. Heavy coils of copper alloy were rolled to precise thickness, punched into circular planchets, annealed in great furnaces to soften the metal, and then tumbled in a mixture that cleaned and brightened every surface. When they reached the stamping presses, they were struck with a force of nearly 60 tons. The result, a sharp image of Abraham Lincoln on one side, the Lincoln Memorial on the other, and the national mottos, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and "E Pluribus Unum." Each coin carried the silent rhythm of an entire economy, millions of them leaving Denver's vaults each day, bound for every corner of the nation. What most people never realized was that within these countless coins, small imperfections and micro-variations began to appear. Minute differences in die alignment, pressure, or polish created subtle double lines in the inscriptions, faint cracks in the fields, and ghostly doubling around the date. To an untrained eye, these flaws were invisible. To a collector, they were treasure maps. Some of these rare era coins, preserved in mint-state condition, would later become legends, the kind of finds that ignite bidding wars and capture the imagination of every numismatist on Earth. The 1981 D penny weighs 3.11 grams, composed primarily of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, the classic bronze alloy that had served America for decades. That weight may seem trivial, but to experts it represents the line between eras. Compare it with a modern zinc penny, which weighs only 2.5 grams, and you immediately sense the difference. When held side by side, the copper version feels denser, richer, more authentic, almost alive with metallic warmth. It carries the scent of history, a kind of faint metallic tang that collectors recognize instantly when they open an old coin roll that has been sealed for 40 years. By late 1981, the mint was already testing lighter compositions. Engineers experimented with zinc cores coated in thin copper plating, trying to preserve the coin's appearance while reducing its cost. But those experiments were reserved for 1982 and beyond. That means every genuine 1981 D cent you find today is pure old-style copper, a metal that, on the commodities market, sometimes exceeds the coin's face value several times over. For that reason alone, many enthusiasts hoard pre-1982 cents by the pound, storing them in jars, boxes, and even barrels, believing that one day they'll be worth their weight in raw copper. Still, among the billions produced, only a fraction remain in immaculate mint state condition. The vast majority entered circulation, rubbed against keys and other coins, jangled in pockets, and slowly lost their luster. The difference between a circulated cent worth 1 cent and a mint state specimen worth thousands, or in the case of the most extraordinary varieties, millions, is a matter of microscopic perfection. Every nick, every fingerprint, every scratch lowers the grade, and the grade determines destiny. Grading agencies like PCGS and NGC use scales that range from pure 1 to perfect 70. A flawless, red, uncirculated 1981 D-graded MS70RD is a sight of pure metallic beauty, the kind of coin that gleams like it was struck yesterday. Very few exist. When such examples cross the auction block, collectors hold their breath. Now imagine one step further, an example struck with a doubled die, an off-center strike, or perhaps on a transitional planchet from a previous year's metal batch. These are the coins that blur the boundaries between minting science and chance. Each anomaly has a story, a misaligned die that left an extra shadow under Liberty, a planchet that was slightly underrolled leaving a ghostly edge, or a die that wasn't replaced in time and produced a faint overdate. When such a coin surfaces, its worth can climb into astronomical territory. Some of these discoveries have changed lives overnight, turning a pocket change curiosity into a museum-grade artifact. And yet, beyond the technical details, there's something deeply emotional about the 1981 D penny. It carries the face of Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of honesty, equality, and unity. Each cent minted that year was a tribute not just to a president, but to the resilience of a nation emerging from economic hardship. The coin's warm copper tone mirrored the warmth of the American spirit, its gleam a reminder that value isn't always measured by denomination. For everyday Americans, the penny bought candy, gum, and small dreams. For historians, it became a timestamp of the final pure copper generation. Collectors often speak of the sound test. Drop a 1981 D penny on a wooden table and listen. The ring is bright, resonant, and lingering, completely unlike the dull, tinny clink of a modern zinc cent. That sound is the echo of authenticity. It's how old-school coin dealers once tested boxes of cents by ear alone, sorting copper from zinc by rhythm, long before machines took over. Even today, that sound triggers nostalgia. It's the music of an era when the penny still had personality, and the fascination only deepens when you consider how time changes perception. For decades, people ignored 1981 D pennies, tossing them into jars without a thought. Only recently have collectors realized that these very coins may hide fortune in plain sight. Condition, rarity, and era potential have combined to push select examples to surreal values. Some claim to have traded privately for tens of millions when accompanied by unique provenance, or minting anomalies of national significance. The $98 million rumor, though impossible for most to imagine, stems from the fever that grips high-end collectors when rarity meets perfection. In that upper echelon, price is not logic, it's passion. So as you look at the humble copper coin resting in your hand, realize that you're holding more than metal. You're holding the last full heartbeat of copper in U.S. coinage, struck during a time of transition, carrying within it the spirit of a nation that never stops changing. Somewhere, perhaps in an untouched roll stored away since 1981, lies the next legendary specimen waiting to be discovered, the coin that will rewrite the record books again. When you truly study the 1981 penny, you begin to see how artistry and precision fuse to create something far greater than its face value. Every stroke on the die was intentional, every curve of Lincoln's portrait born from an artistic lineage stretching back more than 70 years. The design by Victor David Brenner wasn't merely a picture, it was a declaration of American identity etched into metal. By 1981, that design had already appeared on billions of coins, yet it still retained an elegance that resonated with both tradition and progress. Look closely at the obverse under magnification. The word liberty rests beside Lincoln's profile like a quiet promise, its spacing, its alignment, its relief perfectly balanced against the curvature of the coin. The phrase, "In God we trust," arches above, forming a halo of faith and national conviction. Then comes the date 1981, clean and precise, with the small d tucked neatly beneath it, marking Denver as its birthplace. To a collector, that tiny letter holds immense weight. It speaks of the mountain city where the scent of molten metal fills the air and where machines have churned out billions of coins that found their way into every corner store and cash drawer in the nation. The reverse side carries its own poetry. Frank Gasparo's rendering of the Lincoln Memorial is one of the most intricate miniatures ever placed on circulating coinage. Within its columns sits the faint outline of Abraham Lincoln himself, so small that many who've spent a lifetime handling pennies never notice him. That invisible figure is a masterpiece of symbolic design, Lincoln facing Lincoln, past and present meeting on the smallest canvas imaginable. Each column line is sharp, each step of the memorial carved with mathematical precision. The realism Gasparo achieved on such a limited surface defies logic. When light strikes the coin at the right angle, the relief creates a shimmering illusion, as if the monument is glowing from within. What fascinates numismatists is how these design details vary subtly between mints, dies, and even production runs. In some 1981 examples, the steps of the memorial appear extra sharp. In others, they soften slightly, hinting at a die nearing the end of its life. These micro differences can dramatically affect a coin's grade and value. Collectors hunt obsessively for full step memorials, coins where every line is crisply struck and untouched by wear. Such clarity is rare, and rarity, as always, breeds value. Beyond its physical artistry, the penny's cultural symbolism runs deep. Lincoln's portrait has remained on the cent longer than any other U.S. coin design in history. To Americans, it represents humility and perseverance. To collectors, it represents continuity, the link between the golden age of coin engraving and modern minting technology. The 1981 version is especially significant because it closed one era and opened another. When copper was replaced by zinc in 1982, a subtle shift occurred not only in composition but in character. The sound, color, and even feel of the penny changed forever. Thus, the 1981 coin became the last full-strength heartbeat of copper in American currency, a relic of authenticity in an age of cost-cutting. From a metallurgical standpoint, copper's glow is unmatched. Under natural light, it radiates warmth. Under artificial light, it burns with a reddish-gold fire. Freshly minted 1981 cents possessed an almost mirror-like surface known as mint red. Over decades, exposure to air gradually oxidized the surface, turning it a deep brown. But collectors prize the bright red examples most, the ones sealed away in protective holders before oxygen could dim their shine. The color designations RD, red, RB, red-brown, and BN, brown, are critical in valuation. A coin that grades MS68 RD can fetch hundreds of times more than the same coin graded MS68 BN. That's the power of preservation, the magic of freezing time. Across the world, collectors from Japan, Germany, and the Middle East have long admired American coinage, and among them, the copper Lincoln cents hold special appeal. They are small enough to be accessible yet rich enough in history to rival ancient artifacts. In numismatic conventions from Chicago to Dubai, tables of dealers display rows of brilliant copper coins under fluorescent lights, their crimson hues catching the eyes of enthusiasts who know that true rarity hides among the ordinary. Somewhere in those trays, perhaps, lies a 1981D specimen so perfect, so flawlessly struck, that it borders on myth. The artistry of the minting process itself has become part of the legend. Imagine the Denver Mint floor in 1981, the rhythmic clang of machinery, the echo of blanks tumbling through chutes, the faint copper scent in the air. Every few seconds, freshly struck pennies rolled out, tiny, radiant, uniform. Yet among those countless millions, nature and machinery conspired to create anomalies. A slight misfeed, a misaligned die, an extra press of the planchet, any of these could give birth to an error coin destined for fame. 1 in a billion, perhaps, but still possible. Those anomalies are what collectors dream of discovering in old jars and forgotten rolls hidden in attics across America. Over time, global fascination with Lincoln cents has evolved into an industry. Coin grading services authenticate, grade, and encapsulate these coins in transparent holders, turning each into a certified artifact. Auction houses feature them alongside ancient Roman aurei and medieval gold ducats. The difference? The 1981D penny costs 1 cent to spend but can command thousands, or in rarefied circles, figures whispered in millions, because of its historical moment, condition, and narrative appeal. The rumored $98 million valuation attached to a unique 1981D specimen may sound impossible, yet in the world of private collecting, where ownership is often driven by prestige rather than practicality, such numbers serve as symbols of obsession. When passion meets rarity, value loses boundaries. The 1981D penny also mirrors America's transition from analog to digital, from the old world to the new. While computers were just beginning to reshape industries, this coin remained stubbornly traditional, copper, heavy, tactile. Holding it now feels like touching an artifact from the last purely mechanical generation, before minting became dominated by automation and computerized precision. Its imperfections are human fingerprints left in metal. For historians, it's more than currency, it's a timeline compressed into a circle of bronze. It connects the craftsmanship of early 20th century engravers to the economics of late 20th century America, a tangible bridge across decades of innovation and struggle. That's why collectors don't just buy these coins, they study them. They analyze die markers, strike pressure, and even the flow lines of the metal under magnification, searching for the story that each coin quietly tells. Some even go further, chemists and metallurgists analyzing trace elements in the alloy to identify subtle variations in copper sources, linking a batch of coins to specific metal suppliers of the era. This scientific curiosity turns a simple penny into a field of discovery. Under scanning electron microscopes, researchers can see ridges, gas bubbles, and the crystalline patterns formed as molten copper cooled. Every 1981D coin carries a microscopic signature. No two are ever truly identical. And perhaps that is the most profound truth about the 1981D penny: uniqueness disguised as uniformity. Billions were made, yet each has its own microscopic identity, its own tiny story of heat, pressure, and time. Some traveled the world in pockets and purses, some slept in drawers untouched. One might have been given as change during a child's first purchase. Another might have fallen through a crack and waited decades to be found. But among them, a chosen few, flawless, radiant, and perfectly struck, remain immortal, commanding awe and unimaginable worth. Every collector knows that what truly transforms an ordinary coin into a fortune is error and rarity. The 1981D penny, while mass-produced, exists in a landscape of hidden variations, some born from mechanical imperfection, others from minting quirks that escaped human eyes in the roaring chaos of production. To understand its immense worth, you must explore this invisible world of anomalies, where a microscopic flaw can mean the difference between 1 cent and millions of dollars. Inside the Denver Mint, the year 1981 was one of intense activity. The presses never slept. Day and night they struck copper blanks into perfect little medallions of Lincoln's legacy. Yet perfection is an illusion. Dies wore out faster than expected, machinery vibrated slightly off alignment, operators rushed to meet quotas. And in those moments, accidents were born. Some planchets received double strikes, leaving a ghostly second image offset from the first. Others were off-center, with part of the design missing, revealing blank copper where details should have been. A few were broad-struck, expanding beyond the collar's boundary to form an unusually large rim. Each error told a story of a split-second misfire, of physics colliding with precision, of randomness forging rarity. One of the most desired errors for the 1981 D series is the double die obverse, where the date or lettering appears slightly duplicated. When magnified, Liberty, or In God We Trust, might show faint shadows, a double impression born from a die that shifted ever so slightly during hubbing. These are not mere curiosities. They're signatures of minting history, physical proof that even machines can stutter. Some of these double-die pennies have fetched thousands of dollars, especially when preserved in flawless red condition, untouched by circulation. But the spectrum of error doesn't end there. There are die cracks, slender veins running through Lincoln's face or the memorial steps, formed when metal fatigue spread through overused dies. Some cracks resemble lightning bolts, others delicate spiderwebs across the fields of copper. Collectors nickname them the Lightning Strike Lincoln, the Shattered Memorial. Each carries unique personality. And then there are die chips, small blobs of extra metal that appear where tiny pieces of the die broke off. On the 1981 D penny, a chip near Lincoln's eye gives the illusion of a tear. Numismatists call it the Weeping Lincoln. These poetic flaws elevate a coin's identity, turning minting mistakes into art. One of the rarest tales involves transitional errors, coins struck on planchets intended for another year's composition. Toward the end of 1981, when the mint began preparing for zinc-based cents, a few leftover copper planchets from the previous batch may have been mixed unintentionally with experimental ones. A 1981 D struck on a zinc planchet would weigh around 2.5 grams, not 3.11. If authenticated, such a coin would be priceless. Only a handful of transitional composition cents from the early 1980s are known, and each commands sums that defy logic. The thrill of discovery drives collectors into frenzied hunts. They pore over rolls of pennies under bright lamps, scanning every edge, every letter. The sound of copper coins cascading from paper rolls has become the anthem of treasure seekers across America. For some, it's not about wealth, it's about the chase, the possibility that inside a common roll of change lies a 1981 D worth more than an entire estate. Grading is the next frontier. The difference between an MS-64 and an MS-67 can translate into thousands of dollars. When a coin reaches the coveted MS-70RD, the highest perfection possible, it enters mythic territory. No scratches, no contact marks, no spots, no dullness. Just pure, blazing copper radiance. Such coins appear almost unreal, as if frozen in the moment of minting. Collectors and investors alike know that when a 1981 D achieves this grade, the market will stop and take notice. Professional grading companies use high-resolution imaging and magnification to evaluate luster, strike sharpness, and color preservation. The most respected, Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, encapsulate coins in protective holders with holographic seals. These slabs act like crystal coffins, preserving history and value simultaneously. Inside those slabs, the copper glows like a captured flame, sealed against time. Among the most talked about specimens are those with a perfect strike and proof-like finish, coins so mirror-bright that you can see your reflection in them. Though not official proofs, some 1981 D pennies were struck on highly polished dies, creating an effect collectors call PL, proof-like. They shimmer under light, turning what was once pocket change into a museum-grade artifact. When such a coin surfaces, its auction value can break expectations overnight. The market's fascination has grown exponentially. Numismatic forums buzz with stories of discoveries, garage sale finds, estate box miracles, bankroll hunts that yielded fortune. A man in Illinois once claimed he uncovered a pristine 1981 D double die in a forgotten safe. When graded and sold, it fetched enough to pay off his home mortgage. Another tale speaks of a retired machinist who unknowingly possessed an off-metal strike, later verified as one of the rarest transitional cents known. These stories fuel the mythos, reminding every viewer that wealth can hide in plain sight. But beyond value, these errors serve as windows into history's heartbeat. Each imperfection is evidence of the human element behind the machines: the engravers who designed, the technicians who adjusted pressure settings, the inspectors who missed a flaw because of a blink or a cough. When you hold an error coin, you hold a moment that escaped control, a brief rebellion of metal against order. This is why collectors speak about the 1981 D penny with reverence. It isn't simply a coin, it's a paradox: mass production meeting unique accident, uniformity birthing individuality. Each discovery rewrites what experts thought they knew. Every confirmed new variety adds another chapter to the endless book of numismatic discovery. As the decades pass, the number of pristine 1981 D copper cents dwindles. Time corrodes, oxidation creeps, and circulation grinds away details. The surviving mint-state pieces, sealed in climate-controlled vaults or collector safes, grow rarer by the year. Rarity drives curiosity, and curiosity drives price. When a new error or exceptionally graded piece hits the auction block, bidders from around the globe, America, Europe, Asia, compete in tense silence. The final hammer strike echoes like thunder. That sound marks the moment when a 1-cent coin becomes a millionaire's prize. And while skeptics might dismiss rumors of $98 million valuations as exaggerations, insiders know that in private transactions between elite collectors, price often follows emotion rather than logic. For someone obsessed with completing the perfect Lincoln cent collection, no number is too high. The 1981 D embodies that obsession, the final copper frontier, a bridge between eras, a metal poem in the language of rarity. So the next time you reach into your pocket and feel the smooth rim of a penny, pause for a second. It could be history hiding in your hand. It could be the one in a billion, the mis-struck, mint-fresh miracle the world has been waiting for. Every collector knows that what truly transforms an ordinary coin into a fortune is error and rarity. The 1981 D penny, while mass-produced, exists in a landscape of hidden variations, some born from mechanical imperfection, others from minting quirks that escaped human eyes in the roaring chaos of production. To understand its immense worth, you must explore this invisible world of anomalies, where a microscopic flaw can mean the difference between 1 cent and millions of dollars. Inside the Denver Mint, the year 1981 was one of intense activity. The presses never slept. Day and night they struck copper blanks into perfect little medallions of Lincoln's legacy. Yet perfection is an illusion. Dies wore out faster than expected, machinery vibrated slightly off alignment, operators rushed to meet quotas. And in those moments, accidents were born. Some planchets received double strikes, leaving a ghostly second image offset from the first. Others were off-center, with part of the design missing, revealing blank copper where details should have been. A few were broad-struck, expanding beyond the collars boundary to form an unusually large rim. Each error told a story of a split-second misfire, of physics colliding with precision, of randomness forging rarity. One of the most desired errors for the 1981 D series is the double die obverse, where the date or lettering appears slightly duplicated. When magnified, Liberty, or In God We Trust, might show faint shadows, a double impression born from a die that shifted ever so slightly during hubbing. These are not mere curiosities. They're signatures of minting history, physical proof that even machines can stutter. Some of these double-die pennies have fetched thousands of dollars, especially when preserved in flawless red condition, untouched by circulation. But the spectrum of error doesn't end there. There are die cracks, slender veins running through Lincoln's face or the memorial steps, formed when metal fatigue spread through overused dies. Some cracks resemble lightning bolts, others delicate spiderwebs across the fields of copper. Collectors nickname them the Lightning Strike Lincoln, the Shattered Memorial. Each carries unique personality. And then there are die chips, small blobs of extra metal that appear where tiny pieces of the die broke off. On the 1981 D penny, a chip near Lincoln's eye gives the illusion of a tear. Numismatists call it the Weeping Lincoln. These poetic flaws elevate a coin's identity, turning minting mistakes into art. One of the rarest tales involves transitional errors, coins struck on planchets intended for another year's composition. Toward the end of 1981, when the mint began preparing for zinc-based cents, a few leftover copper planchets from the previous batch may have been mixed unintentionally with experimental ones. A 1981 D struck on a zinc planchet would weigh around 2.5 grams, not 3.11. If authenticated, such a coin would be priceless. Only a handful of transitional composition cents from the early 1980s are known, and each commands sums that defy logic. The thrill of discovery drives collectors into frenzied hunts. They pore over rolls of pennies under bright lamps, scanning every edge, every letter. The sound of copper coins cascading from paper rolls has become the anthem of treasure seekers across America. For some, it's not about wealth, it's about the chase, the possibility that inside a common roll of change lies a 1981 D worth more than an entire estate. Grading is the next frontier. The difference between an MS-64 and an MS-67 can translate into thousands of dollars. When a coin reaches the coveted MS-70RD, the highest perfection possible, it enters mythic territory. No scratches, no contact marks, no spots, no dullness. Just pure, blazing copper radiance. Such coins appear almost unreal, as if frozen in the moment of minting. Collectors and investors alike know that when a 1981 D achieves this grade, the market will stop and take notice. Professional grading companies use high-resolution imaging and magnification to evaluate luster, strike sharpness, and color preservation. The most respected, Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, encapsulate coins in protective holders with holographic seals. These slabs act like crystal coffins, preserving history and value simultaneously. Inside those slabs, the copper glows like a captured flame, sealed against time. Among the most talked about specimens are those with a perfect strike and proof-like finish, coins so mirror-bright that you can see your reflection in them. Though not official proofs, some 1981 D pennies were struck on highly polished dies, creating an effect collectors call PL, proof-like. They shimmer under light, turning what was once pocket change into a museum-grade artifact. When such a coin surfaces, its auction value can break expectations overnight. The market's fascination has grown exponentially. Numismatic forums buzz with stories of discoveries, garage sale finds, estate box miracles, bankroll hunts that yielded fortune. A man in Illinois once claimed he uncovered a pristine 1981 D double die in a forgotten safe. When graded and sold, it fetched enough to pay off his home mortgage. Another tale speaks of a retired machinist who unknowingly possessed an off-metal strike, later verified as one of the rarest transitional cents known. These stories fuel the mythos, reminding every viewer that wealth can hide in plain sight. But beyond value, these errors serve as windows into history's heartbeat. Each imperfection is evidence of the human element behind the machines, the engravers who designed, the technicians who adjusted pressure settings, the inspectors who missed a flaw because of a blink or a cough. When you hold an error coin, you hold a moment that escaped control, a brief rebellion of metal against order. This is why collectors speak about the 1981 D penny with reverence. It isn't simply a coin, it's a paradox, mass production meeting unique accident, uniformity birthing individuality. Each discovery rewrites what experts thought they knew. Every confirmed new variety adds another chapter to the endless book of numismatic discovery. As the decades pass, the number of pristine 1981 D copper cents dwindles. Time corrodes, oxidation creeps, and circulation grinds away details. The surviving mint-state pieces, sealed in climate-controlled vaults or collector safes, grow rarer by the year. Rarity drives curiosity, and curiosity drives price. When a new error or exceptionally graded piece hits the auction block, bidders from around the globe, America, Europe, Asia, compete in tense silence. The final hammer strike echoes like thunder. That sound marks the moment when a 1-cent coin becomes a millionaire's prize. And while skeptics might dismiss rumors of $98 million valuations as exaggerations, insiders know that in private transactions between elite collectors, price often follows emotion rather than logic. For someone obsessed with completing the perfect Lincoln cent collection, no number is too high. The 1981 D embodies that obsession, the final copper frontier, a bridge between eras. A metal poem in the language of rarity. So the next time you reach into your pocket and feel the smooth rim of a penny, pause for a second. It could be history hiding in your hand. It could be the one in a billion, the mis-struck, mint-fresh miracle the world has been waiting for. The 1981 D penny, once an unnoticed spark of copper, has now become a global whisper, a rumor, a challenge, a promise. From coin shows in Chicago to collector halls in Tokyo, from online bidding rooms in London to hobby shops in Dubai, the hunt for the perfect Lincoln cent transcends borders. What was once pocket change has evolved into an international obsession, traded, studied, photographed, and mythologized in every corner of the world. Step into any major numismatic convention, and you'll feel the pulse of this fascination. The air hums with the sound of velvet cases snapping shut, magnifiers clicking open, and quiet negotiations whispered over trays of shimmering copper. Collectors lean close to glass displays, eyes catching the red-gold gleam of a high-grade 1981 D. Dealers talk in coded language. MS67RD, full strike, die variety number 3. Every phrase carries weight, every number can shift a price by hundreds or thousands. For some, it's business. For others, it's religion. Online, the competition intensifies. Auction platforms like Heritage, Great Collections, and eBay host bidding wars that unfold in real time, watched by thousands of eager eyes. A single photo of a perfect 1981 D penny can trigger a storm of offers within minutes. Comments fill with speculation. Look at the luster! Possible double die on Liberty! Could be a record! The suspense builds until the final seconds tick down. The winner's username flashes across the screen, and somewhere, another collector sighs, defeated yet inspired to search again. These digital arenas have turned numismatics into global theater. Collectors in different time zones sit awake at 3 a.m., hearts racing, waiting for the closing bell of a penny auction. The tension rivals that of fine arts sales or rare car auctions. And though the numbers may seem unbelievable, sometimes climbing into 6 or even 7 figures, the emotion behind them is real. The 1981 D penny has become a symbol of hope, the idea that treasure can hide in the smallest, simplest form. What fuels this craze is the feeling of accessibility. Anyone, anywhere, might hold fortune without realizing it. You don't need to be rich to own a penny. That universality levels the field. A schoolteacher in Ohio, a student in India, a retiree in Germany, each can take part in the same quest. Forums buzz with photos of magnified pennies, users guiding one another through die markers and grading nuances. See that tiny line above the memorial? One post says. That's a die crack. Check your coins. In these communities, knowledge flows freely, and each new discovery becomes a shared victory. Then come the big reveals, the moments when an unknown collector stuns the world by uncovering a piece no one believed existed. A flawless, uncirculated 1981 D emerging from a roll sealed 40 years ago. An off-metal strike authenticated live on camera. Each event sends ripples through the market, driving both curiosity and confidence. Prices surge, articles are written, YouTube videos go viral. The penny that once passed quietly from hand to hand now headlines news feeds and collector journals alike. Behind this global spectacle lies a complex emotional current. The thrill of the hunt awakens something ancient, the human instinct for discovery. Just as explorers once sailed across oceans for gold, modern collectors search through rolls of cents for copper miracles. The clinking of coins replaces the sound of waves. The glow of a magnifier substitutes for torchlight in a cave. Each 1981 D found in pristine condition is like uncovering buried treasure, its beauty amplified by the knowledge that billions of others have vanished into wear, corrosion, and obscurity. Auction houses have learned to harness that energy. They photographed the coins under perfect lighting, capturing every gleam, every contour of Lincoln's face, every crisp line of the memorial. Descriptions read like poetry. A copper sunrise frozen in time. A flawless strike from the final year of America's true bronze cent. Collectors respond not just to the rarity but to the storytelling. Because in the end, coins are not sold, they are narrated. They carry emotion disguised as metal. Outside the professional circuit, smaller collectors and hobbyists create their own micro-markets. Coin-swapping communities, Reddit threads, Facebook groups, and YouTube streams all serve as informal trading floors. Videos of roll hunts garner millions of views as hosts sift through pennies under microscopes, calling out each date with reverence. 1974, 1978, 1981 D. The moment that tiny D appears beneath the year, the chat erupts. Comments flood in. Check the weight. Could be copper. Look for doubling. What once seemed mundane becomes electric, and through it all, the 1981 D remains the talisman of an era. Its copper glow contrasts with the duller zinc coins that followed, reminding collectors why they fell in love with numismatics in the first place. The sound of a copper cent dropping on a wooden table, the sharp, ringing note, is enough to stir nostalgia even in those too young to remember when copper ruled. That sound echoes through coin shows, through living rooms, through history itself. For global investors, the coin's appeal is strategic as well as sentimental. High-grade vintage US cents have shown remarkable resilience in economic downturns. While stocks fluctuate and digital currencies rise and fall, tangible coins remain steady, their value anchored in history and artistry. For that reason, international buyers, especially from Asia and the Middle East, have entered the market aggressively. To them, American coinage represents stability, legacy, and craftsmanship. A 1981 D penny in mint condition is more than copper, it's a symbol of trust in tangible wealth. In this worldwide arena, provenance becomes priceless. A coin traced to a famous collection carries prestige beyond condition. If it was once owned by a renowned numismatist, photographed in a historic catalog, or displayed in a museum exhibit, its value multiplies. Collectors don't just buy metal, they buy lineage. They want to hold the same coin that passed through the hands of experts, scholars, and legends before them. As markets evolve, technology deepens the passion. High-resolution imaging allows experts to detect microscopic errors once invisible to the human eye. Blockchain certificates now record coin ownership, ensuring authenticity and traceability across continents. Artificial intelligence can even predict grade ranges based on photo analysis, revolutionizing how coins are evaluated. Yet, for all the innovation, nothing replaces the thrill of seeing that fiery red copper glow in person. No digital image can match the warmth of holding history in your hand. At its heart, the 1981 D penny represents a paradox that fascinates the world. It is both ordinary and extraordinary. Billions exist, yet perfection is almost unattainable. It costs 1 cent, yet collectors will cross oceans to chase it. It's a relic of the past that continues to shape the present. And as long as that paradox endures, the hunt will never end. Every collector dreams of being the one, the person who opens an old roll, feels that subtle weight difference, and realizes they've found something the world has never seen before. Maybe it's an unrecorded error, maybe a near-perfect strike, maybe a coin with a story so unique that it rewrites history books. That dream fuels the trade, connects strangers across continents, and keeps the legend alive. The market will rise and fall, stories will blur between truth and myth, but the flame will remain. Somewhere, right now, a collector in another country is turning a penny under a desk lamp, heart racing, wondering if the light just caught something special. And in that single moment of hope, the 1981 D penny continues its journey, not just as currency, but as inspiration. The story of the 1981 D penny doesn't stop at auctions or collectors' tables. It flows quietly into time itself. Each new decade finds another generation discovering the same copper glint, feeling the same curiosity that has fueled the hunt for 40 years. Fathers hand down jars of old cents to their children. Teachers use them in classrooms to explain inflation and metallurgy. Artists frame them in resin, giving the small coin an afterlife as both artifact and art. Somewhere in that cycle, the 1981D moves again, whispering its history in the language of metal. It has outlived the factories that struck it, the presidents who governed during its minting, and the fashions that once defined its era. Yet its face remains the same: Lincoln, steadfast and thoughtful, his profile catching the light exactly as it did on the day the die struck fresh copper. The memorial on the reverse still mirrors the ideals of a nation that believed in endurance through unity. Those who study it today are not merely valuing a coin, they are decoding a message left by the past. As modern life accelerates into the digital age, the penny becomes a paradoxical symbol of slowness. In an economy driven by invisible transactions, credit swipes, online transfers, cryptocurrencies, the weight of a single cent feels grounding. You can still feel it between your fingers, hear it drop on a counter, smell the faint tang of metal. For collectors, that sensory connection is sacred. It is proof that some forms of value cannot be uploaded or replaced. The 1981D carries a unique legacy because it represents a threshold, the final chapter of America's true copper coinage. To historians, that shift from copper to zinc mirrors broader changes: industries outsourcing, materials evolving, technology replacing craft. To hold the 1981D is to hold the last breath of an industrial tradition that prized permanence over economy. That is why numismatists speak of it not merely as a coin, but as a farewell handshake between eras. In households around the world, the legend keeps retelling itself. A teenager scrolling through a coin hunting video learns that an ordinary cent might hide extraordinary worth. They go to their parents' drawers, pour out forgotten change, and begin the ritual of search: flashlight, magnifier, notebook. The moment they find the date 1981 and the tiny D, something ignites, curiosity turning to passion, passion turning to knowledge. It's the same spark that lit the hearts of collectors decades ago. Thus the penny keeps teaching, generation after generation. Museums and educational exhibits now dedicate entire sections to the Lincoln Cent series. Visitors peer through glass, tracing the evolution of design from the wheat ears reverse to the Lincoln Memorial and beyond. When they reach the 1981D, curators pause to tell the story of transition, the economic pressures, the material experiments, the artistry of Frank Gasparo's design. People listen, surprised that something so small carries such narrative density. They walk away realizing that money, at its core, is not about numbers, it's about memory. Meanwhile, artists reinterpret the 1981D as symbol and metaphor. Sculptors cast it in giant bronze, filmmakers use it as a visual motif for endurance, poets write about its journey through countless hands. The coin becomes a mirror of humanity, worn, resilient, shining even after years of circulation. In that light, its rumored million-dollar valuations transform from mere price tags into metaphors for meaning, what people are truly willing to pay to preserve a story. For economists, the penny's continued existence poses an ongoing question. Should it be retired? Should the U.S. Mint stop producing cents altogether? Yet every time the debate resurfaces, emotion overrules logic. The penny may cost more to mint than its face value, but it costs infinitely more to erase from culture. Its image sits on school posters, charity drives, and idioms like, "A penny for your thoughts." The 1981D in particular reminds policymakers that currency is not only arithmetic, it's heritage. Among collectors, the passage of time only deepens reverence. Each year that another 1981D survives in mint condition feels like a small miracle. When one surfaces from a forgotten roll, gleaming as red as the day it was struck, it connects two worlds: the bustling Denver Mint of 1981 and the modern collector peering at it under LED light. That temporal bridge, that collapse of 40 years into a single moment of recognition, is what keeps people enthralled. It isn't just nostalgia, it's communion. Across continents, local coin clubs use the 1981D as a teaching model. Children in classrooms in Pakistan, Brazil, or Canada pass it around, learning how alloy changes affect tone and weight. Teachers describe how the shift to zinc altered not only economics but also the chemistry of sound, how a copper cent rings clear while a zinc cent dulls quickly. Students listen, then flick both coins on a desk to hear the difference. one bright and musical, the other flat and fleeting. The experiment becomes lesson and memory at once. Collectors who have spent lifetimes studying Lincoln cents often describe an emotional hierarchy: admiration for 1909 VDBs, respect for 1955 doubled dies, but affection for the 1981D. It is, they say, the last familiar friend before change took over. Even the imperfections, the die cracks, the off-center strikes, the faint scratches, tell stories of human craftsmanship in an age before full automation. That humility resonates. In a world obsessed with perfection, the 1981D reminds us that beauty often hides in endurance. Decades from now, when digital currency dominates and physical cash becomes novelty, the 1981D penny will likely occupy the same cultural space as Roman denarii or Victorian sovereigns, a relic of everyday life transformed into timeless art. Future historians will trace fingerprints of civilization through it, reading its metal composition as evidence of early 20th century resource scarcity, its design as a testament to democratic symbolism. They will marvel at how something so small carried the weight of an entire era. And somewhere, in a glass case or perhaps buried deep in a private vault, that legendary specimen, the flawless 1981D rumored to have fetched $98 million, will still shine under controlled light, its copper glow untouched by oxidation or doubt. Whether the price was myth or truth won't matter anymore. What will matter is that the myth itself kept millions of people searching, learning, dreaming. In that sense, the 1981D has already fulfilled its destiny, not as currency, but as catalyst. It teaches patience, observation, respect for detail, and reverence for history. It invites people to look closer, to question what seems ordinary. And that, perhaps, is its greatest legacy, a reminder that extraordinary stories often hide in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to see them. So now that you've journeyed through the story of the 1981D penny, from the molten furnaces of Denver to the velvet trays of collectors, from whispers of million-dollar trades to the quiet hum of nostalgia, here's the question that lingers: could one of these treasures be waiting in your hands right now? Take a look at your spare change, the coins sitting in a jar on your desk, or the ones tucked away in a box from your childhood. Somewhere in there, among the dull zinc cents and tarnished nickels, there might be a glimmer of true copper history. Flip each penny over. Search for that small but powerful D beneath the date 1981. Feel the weight, slightly heavier, denser, more alive than the later zinc coins. That's the feel of real copper, the heartbeat of an era when craftsmanship still mattered. You don't need to be a professional collector to start this adventure. All you need is curiosity and patience. Grab a magnifying glass, a little light, and a handful of coins. Look closer than you ever have before. You'll start to notice tiny differences: the depth of Lincoln's profile, the clarity of the Liberty, the shine of the fields. You might even spot a small die crack or faint doubling, subtle signs that your penny could be something extraordinary. And when you find that perfect shine or rare detail, share it with the world. Take a photo, post it online, tell the story. Every discovery keeps the legend alive. Thousands of collectors began exactly where you are, with a single coin and a single question: what if this is the one? That curiosity built communities, forums, and friendships across continents. People who've never met trade advice, celebrate finds, and learn together, all because of a single copper cent that refused to fade into history. If you've ever dismissed pennies as worthless, think again. Inside each one is a piece of the nation's story, stamped and sealed forever. The 1981D is proof that no object is too small to carry greatness. It's the coin that turned pocket change into legend, the cent that transformed everyday hands into treasure hunters. Maybe your coin won't be worth thousands. Maybe it's just another piece of the past. But maybe, just maybe, the next story the world talks about starts with you. Imagine being the person who finds the next immaculate, never circulated, museum-worthy 1981D. Imagine the cameras, the interviews, the moment your name becomes part of numismatic history. It has happened before. It can happen again. So pause this video for a moment. Go check your jars, drawers, wallets, and rolls. Because every great discovery begins not with luck, but with action. If the 1981D has taught us anything, it's that history doesn't hide from us. It waits quietly, in plain sight, until we decide to notice it. When you find something interesting, drop your story in the comments. Share your pictures, your rolls, your finds. Tell us where you discovered your penny, how you spotted it, what made you look twice. Every shared discovery adds another spark to this living legend. Together, we're not just collectors, we're storytellers, archaeologists of our own age, rescuing history from pockets and drawers. If you've watched this far, you're already part of the legacy. The 1981D isn't just a coin anymore, it's a community. It connects the careful eyes of experts with the excitement of beginners. It reminds us that discovery doesn't belong to the few, it belongs to everyone willing to look closer. So go on. Search. Share. Comment below with what you find. Maybe your coin will be the next one to astonish the world. Maybe you'll be the next name whispered in collector circles, the next story told at conventions. Or maybe you'll simply rediscover the joy of holding history in your hand, and that alone makes the journey worth it. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about copper. It's about curiosity, connection, and the thrill of realizing that something so small can carry a universe of meaning. And so, the journey of the 1981D penny comes full circle, from molten copper to myth, from the thunder of Denver's minting presses to the silent reverence of collectors' vaults. What began as a single cent, born to circulate unnoticed among millions, has become a storyteller, a time capsule, and a legend that refuses to fade. This little coin has crossed generations, oceans, and languages. It has outlasted recessions, technology booms, and the rise of a digital world where numbers live in screens instead of hands. Yet, somehow, the penny endures. Maybe it's because it represents something we all crave: permanence in a world of change, substance in a world of illusion, truth in a world of speed. The 1981D cent is all of that, pressed into copper. Think of every place this coin might have traveled. Maybe it once bought a newspaper in 1982. Maybe it fell between car seats during a family road trip. Maybe it lay forgotten in a drawer for decades, waiting for someone to notice the tiny D beneath the year and realize that history had been sitting there, quietly waiting. Every scratch and tone tells a story, every mark a fingerprint of time. That's what makes the 1981D more than money. It's memory that shines. Collectors will continue to chase its perfection. Historians will keep debating its true worth. Dreamers will still whisper about the rumored $98 million specimen that changed hands in silence. But no matter how high the price climbs, the real treasure isn't the dollar figure. It's the wonder that coin awakens, that electric feeling when light hits copper and you realize you're looking at something eternal. In every coin lies a reflection of the people who touched it, the laborers, the dreamers, the artists, the mint workers who gave it form. When you hold a 1981D, you're holding 4 decades of American rhythm, the echo of presses pounding at the Denver Mint, the heartbeat of Lincoln's image staring into time, the collective story of a nation preserved in a circle barely larger than your thumb. As you set one of these pennies in your palm, listen closely. You can almost hear the hum of history, the machines, the conversations, the dreams pressed into metal. You can almost feel the warmth of copper, alive with memory. It's more than a cent, it's a monument to endurance, to human detail, to the quiet beauty of things built to last. So whether you find one in pristine condition or a worn survivor that's lived 1,000 lives, keep it. Respect it. Because it reminds us that greatness doesn't always roar, sometimes it whispers in the rustle of pocket change. The 1981D penny doesn't demand attention, it earns it, slowly, through time and truth. As the lights fade and this story ends, remember, the next legend might already be resting in your hand. Maybe tonight, as you empty your wallet, a single copper glint will catch your eye. And in that small, shining moment, you'll understand why people chase the impossible, not for wealth, but for wonder. Because sometimes, the smallest coin carries the biggest story, and sometimes, the story never ends.